Hello, YouTube. This is Ben Gessel. I think I'm not sure what number video this is, but uh, getting few of these out there now. Um, um, Today is December 28th. It's about 5:30 p.m. So I thought today I'd talk a little bit more about a little bit of the nature of how I think about things in real life and how that inspires some of the thoughts I have regarding anything imaginative, whether it's visual, musical, that sort of thing. Um, so I've touched on this a little bit before, and I'm not sure how much I've talked about this, but a lot of the things that have been very colorful or visual stimuli to me in real life, it has always influenced my thoughts on music. There's a very strong connection there, extremely strong connection, and so it's very. That's why I'm so inspired when I go to different places that are new and very inspiring in certain ways. The Beauchamp Gardens in Victoria is a good example of a place that, if you wanted to write very uh, beautiful music, very not just peaceful, but colorful and imaginative and soothing and reflective, maybe romantic, also um, cheerful, all these kinds of things, spiritual even, all these kinds of things. Flower gardens are great, but in that regard. But I thought I'd mention a little bit more in detail about some certain places, even places that might seem a little bit common or mundane, that have influenced me a little bit more in my life. And so, in the arts and stuff. So, in just imaginative things. I'm going to start out with church settings first here, or religious settings. So, it's true, without getting into the subject of necessarily religion per se, there's a lot of, uh, we always put, there's a definite connection between religion and the arts. Everything is connected in a way, but it's interesting to think about how certain churches are decorated, or what people wear and that sort of thing, and styles and colors, and what the religion is all about, and what kind of culture it tends to be from originally, its parent culture, or whatever. For instance, starting with my own church, the LDS church, um, I've always felt like in our church we don't, our meeting houses aren't the most colorful. They're pretty. They're pretty. The newer ones are there's just a handful of colors per room, if that, and they're pretty, whatever, wood coloring with either the carpet might be light blue, and or maybe kind of a maroon color or something, and walls tend to be kind of beige or tan, just kind of regular office like library type colors for the newer buildings. The older buildings, there are some buildings that actually have stained glass a little bit. They're LDS meeting houses, and some buildings have a bit more of a white interior a little bit. But then of course there's the our temples are a little bit more amazing, very very sparkly white inside, that sort of thing. But so then of course getting into other churches, you have the Catholic and Lutheran and so on and so forth. Um, there was in St. Louis there's a very impressive Catholic cathedral. Um, it's very well known. I can't I should know the name of it, but just talk about stained glass. I mean, this, you go inside, it's breathtaking. It really is, and just a lot of work went into it, making it really, but just a lot of greens and blues, and it's very very soothing colors, and stained glass windows and that sort of thing, and a lot of kind of areas where you can kind of just reflect on things on your own, kind of away from the main central area of the cathedral. And then I've been inside some Lutheran churches, and the Lutheran churches and Protestant churches in general, I think, are somewhere in the middle between our meeting houses and some of the more grandiose. There's a few more grandiose buildings that get toward the Catholic arena, and it's kind of how impressive they are. Of course, our temples are kind of the big one. But the other thing about church setting is in that this is more, I think, in regard to Catholic and Lutheran. Um, the thing is that the priests will wear bishops, that sort of thing. So I know that, and I'm not a Protestant myself, but there are certain days or certain time periods where they'll, like say, Lutheran bishop, I think, or will wear different colors in his robe depending on the season. And I've always thought that was kind of pretty cool, and it it has its effect. And of course, there's a similar but different train of thought with the Catholic and the Anglican, you know, colors. And I think that it's it's very impressive when you see, say, for instance, if you've ever seen any videos of the College of Cardinals meeting in Vatican City, it's these guys, they're all you know immediately what's going on. They're the cardinals, and they're all circling the Pope and that sort of thing. It's just kind of for me, it's big cathedral, and anyway, kind of impressive. So in some respects, colors, have a lot. There's a lot of tradition with using different colors for different events. In university settings, universities to me, most of the buildings, there's like kind of that modern look that I've never liked as much. But there's a lot of glass buildings, that are more modern, or there's just kind of like there's the brick type, and then there's the stone type. I like kind of the mid 1900s kind of style a lot of times with architecture in universities. But yeah, there's a lot of times the older dormitories. So the old desert towers at BYU, I still think about the architecture there, even though it's there's a lot of yellow or tan brick used in Utah. That's different than the red brick in a lot of other places. Like there's a lot of red brick in the East Coast, and most of the time in most of the areas, in the turn of the century, we're talking about brick buildings. It was mostly red brick, but again, Mountain West, especially Utah, maybe Southern Idaho, there's a lot of yellow brick or even white brick, but yellow brick or tan brick buildings. And so I remember those buildings, and I like marble a lot. It's a little expensive, but it's really pretty in certain buildings. So HVAC at BYU has the Fine Arts Building is kind of a white marble-ish type building. It's nice outside. So, and I can mention more about different university buildings, but there's a bunch of different types. So though I have some memories of all those kinds of buildings too as well. The one of the main events, I suppose, say there's the theaters. A lot of times I have a lot of memories of different in college, and particularly the large theaters. I really think that red sometimes can be overdone. It seems like red chairs, red curtains. It's just very common. I wish there was other colors used in theater sometimes. It's just anyway. So graduations with all the different colors of robes and everything. It's it's very impressive. They're very. I'm often, if I'm watching a graduation, I'm just drawn to the robes and all the colors in the robes. A lot of times, rather than what's being said, I just graduations go on for forever. I just yeah. So anyway, getting on to some other stuff here. Um, so you have those big auditoriums, in universities, and you have sometimes bigger churches. I forgot to mention one other thing. There's other. I haven't been inside a mosque or a synagogue ever. Just a Buddhist temple once. But it's interesting, that a lot of Buddhist temples they'll have more like gold and red, those two colors combined, that kind of color combination. So it's a little bit more. Uh, it feels very majestic, royal, that kind of thing. And it's a little bit brighter, I think, than we're sometimes used to in Christianity. With we used to stained glass windows and the stone and everything for a lot of Catholic and Protestant churches, but more recently we're trying to make more economical buildings. Especially in my church, it's our buildings are very functional sometimes. Anyway, so. Talking about theme amusement parks and funplexes, that kind of thing. This is where you get a lot more. You should get more into the zany, wacky patterns and colors and things. And you see a lot of the times. Sometimes certain shops, certain stores will have that. And I forgot to mention that too. Pike Place Market in Seattle, for instance, is just one of the best places to go to see just a bunch of color and personality and things, life in Seattle, and it's like one of the hubs of Seattle cultural things. But you have all the fresh fruit, especially in the summer, and you have all the jewelry, and you have all the fish monger thing guys, and you have like the along with the jewelry, you have like clothing, you have crafts and beads and artwork and quilts and Afghan things and different countries and things for different people from different countries. They're selling stuff, and there's all kinds of stuff there. So, but this kind of ties in a little bit with the touristy thing, in general, with certain shopping areas that are really colorful. And I like, of course, the thing about Pike Place too is I like the fact that it's a bit more windy. It's not quite as blocky in terms of the design, the setup. There's kind of more diagonal tunnels and things. It's really fun. But with theme and amusement parks, it's the solid colored rides. We like that. We're used to that. Cotton candy. I think that at this point we can always have a few more theme parks. We can always do a few other things, but I think in general, this is my other train of thought. We should have some parks of attractions, places to go that have more variety of things that you can do. If you were to have, maybe I'd love to be able to design something like this in the future, but if you were to have a theme park or a park or some place that you could go just for friends or whoever, family, whatever, a group of people, and you could go, just like for adults, you can actually go through all these different tunnels and things, tons of different designs and patterns and colors and different, whatever. Maybe like a maze, but there'd be something like that. That'd be a bit more imaginative, with mirrors, whatever, all kinds of stuff you could do, glow in the dark stuff. And of course, you could have a few thrill rides and things, but maybe think something like something artistic, something musical, a few different things, maybe karaoke, but also something involving making your own music, but something that you can do right on the spot and have it performed, something like that, or it's just a question. We're talking about the number of different things that you could do that are not as expensive to run, so not hardly any rides, but a lot more different kinds of things that are just different easier to run things for the park, but more a wider variety of things for people to be able to do that are really, really enjoyable, and just kind of all kinds of stuff. I mean, what if you were to walk into, Enchanted Village, Enchanted Village Wildway is in Auburn, well, Federal Way, Washington. It's kind of on the border, but they still do have kind of some little kid themed areas, but they used to, when the park was younger, when it was first starting out more. I like the little kid area a little bit more, perhaps. Or at least I just remember they had a puppet theater up on the hill a little bit, and everything in the kid area seemed like I really felt like you could have some munchkins, you could have some little gnomes or things just pop out of nowhere. But that was the feeling I got, and it's a great little park still, and it just has limited space. I worked there actually at one point, but on the grounds and stuff, um, there needs to be more a wider variety of different things that people should be able to do, not just rides and not just I don't know go karts or whatever. So, but there are places I've seen this in like funplexes and things, and that's the great thing about YouTube is you can just look for those kinds of places here and there. I saw a funplex or some kind of a family fun place or whatever, where there was one room that was all kind of blue or purple. There's like a purple kind of walls. They're padded, and there was like these three large balls that are different colors, and you can kind of play with. Kids could play with. But it was this purplish room where it was kind of separated. It was kind of a triangular shaped room, and it was kind of separated a little bit from the other rooms. You can kind of get to other places via a little bit of a tunnel that wasn't too low. But you had this one little room, and if you have these little rooms of different colors, maybe stripes or solid colors, it really is fun, especially what you can do with the lighting, as long as it's not too dark and that sort of thing. But it all depends. If it's a dark room, there are dark rooms where everything is glow in the dark, so there's that too. You just don't want to accidentally hit your head against someone. So you want at least a little bit of lighting, hopefully in some places like that. You also have playgrounds and parks and stuff. I can mention more about amusement parks and that sort of thing in my own life. But basically, that's probably one of the huge areas that whether you go to Disneyland or Knott's Berry Farm or some other place. Again, I'll just mention this before I go on to other parks, but there are a lot of things that are really kind of overdone aesthetically. Not that they're they're still going to draw in a lot of people. They're still very enjoyable, but there's a lot of the ye old time wooden roller coasters. Well, I should say not ye old time. But that sounds English, but like your cowboy, oh yeah, the mine roller coaster, or the rootin' tootin', kind of thing, So that they have your Old West rides, and you have your Pirates rides. I'm thinking maybe that's to Disneyland a little bit, but there's certain themes that are a little more common, and they're still great to have, really, really. But I think it's time to start looking into other directions, even if they should be unfamiliar to people. That's what would cause. That should be a curiosity-provoking thing. More adults need to be naturally curious. There's not enough curiosity, I think, in the world that way. But getting back to parks and playgrounds, so I remember playgrounds are really basic, and as a kid you're often very easily amazed by things. And I think that's a good thing. It's a good way of being. Adults should be that way more too, as much as we can. It's good to be. It's a healthy way to be amazed by and take in things like you would as a kid. But if it was just one red slide and everything else was wood or metal bars, monkey bars, that one red slide kind of stood out, or the blue ladder or something on kind of a plastic or hard plastic kind of big toy. And I remember playgrounds at school, and I think growing up in Tacoma, Point Defiance Park, there was a lot of things that, I just remember Point Defiance having a lot of different things that you could do in the park. And so I often remember feeling like, oh, I didn't get to do everything I wanted to do there, whether it was see as all the animals I wanted to see, all of them. At the zoo, maybe some of them were hiding or some of them were not. There was no animals there. There was kind of, the exhibit was kind of down or whatever. And I hated to spend a bunch of time with the fish. I don't know. Fish to me were kind of boring, kind of, unless it was a big fish. I'm more into the colorful fish, I think, these days. But yeah, there's something. I always felt like I was missing something when I went to Point Defiance, because they had the zoo and it had, well, they had the beach and everything, but and then it had the old Fort Nisqually, but it wasn't the original Fort Nisqually. It was kind of rebuilt on the park. It used to be a different place, closer to Selcombe, I think, but Washington. But so there was an old fort that was patterned after the original fort. It had the cannons and it had like the wood fence with tall timbers, and then we had like a little children's themed area, Neverland, and I was imagining it to be a bigger deal than it turned out to be when I was a little bit older, but whatever. And then there's a go-kart place, and there's a boat area, and then there's just a lot of forest, and then also a place called Camp 6, and of course a lot of picnic areas. And then there's also like a Japanese kind of tea garden or a pagoda temple thing, and a bunch of garden areas. Yeah, I mean, so I like Point Defiance and the variety of different things that were there. I still do, and I think that you need more that kind of thing. At Seattle Center was kind of a similar idea. You have the Space Needle in Seattle. You have the Space Needle. You have Science Center, which the Science Center itself had a fair amount of things that you could do. 6 different buildings. One of them was IMAX Theater, and a bunch of different exhibits. And then there's a Performing Arts Center that was always, that's more of a you go there for, to see something. It's kind of a big deal. Macaw Hall, a bunch of those theaters in the north. And then there used to be a little amusement park, but I think it shut down. It's too bad. I think that park had a lot going for it. And then there was like a kind of a really beautiful fountain area and kind of a flag pavilion, and a lot of fountains in the middle of the area, Seattle Center. Plus the Seattle Center itself, which had restaurants and other things like that. Anyway. But Seattle Center actually had a big impact on me aesthetically, really, really big, huge, in fact. I've always admired the architecture of the outside of the Science Center with the kind of the white arching kind of design. I'm not sure what I don't think it's marble. They used some marble, I think, for the some of the walkways and the fountains and things, but for the structure of the outside, it was some kind of white or very kind of a white colored, somewhat stone type, or like a it's hard to, whatever it was, it's very, very beautiful looking. It's more of a kind of a white color. So this should give you guys a little bit more insights into some of my trains of thought. But I'll take all these places I've been and I'll just combine them in various ways, my own mind. A lot of times it's it's subconscious, a very subconscious thing. And then sometimes when I'm writing music or something else that's creative, all these kind of ideas and memories will come back. And so I'm just curious as to I'm sure a lot of other folks function like that, but myself in particular, I really do function quite a bit like that. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Leave me any comments. Thanks. Bye.